You know that scene from The Waterboy where Coach Klein is trying to egg on that gentle Bobby Boucher and bring out the tackling monster within him? And after he does this by saying, "Water sucks,"
Water sucks. It really, really sucks.
yeah, like that. He calls it his tackling fuel. Well, we may have just found that tackling fuel for neurogenesis, or the synthesis of new adult neurons. Kind of, at least. And we're going to talk about some ways we can egg it on through lifestyle. Let's go. Yo, yo, yo. What is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftinbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today we are talking about one of the coolest mysteries regarding our pretty cool meat suit. And for that matter, likely the entire animal kingdom, because we have some new, hot off the scientific streets, G2 on it, or information. As alluded to in the intro, the topic at hand today is neurogenesis, or the synthesis of new adult-born neurons in the brain. A biological happening, as we discussed in our previous deep dives on the topic, that was thought to be biologically impossible for basically the entire history of modern science. That is, until it wasn't. Funny how things work like that. As emerging science has displayed that the creation of new adult-born neurons, at least in certain parts of the brain, is possible, potentially supplementing the nearly 80 billion we enter early adulthood with as we live out our time on this beautiful floating rock. Now, knowing something is possible and understanding how it actually works are two different things. And that is what we're going to hone in on today. The how this neurogenesis is happening. And at the end, we will discuss some ways that we can potentially put our pretty cool meat suit in a position to facilitate it, if we need to, at least. Because there is also a pretty solid argument that if you are nurturing your body the way you should, you probably don't need new neurons often. So we'll talk about that too. But first, let's start by breaking down what this new study actually brought to light. And full disclaimer, this was an animal model, because brain studies are quite difficult in humans. And double disclaimer, although there is a lot of overlap in biological mechanisms between humans and other mammals, research often does not translate one for one. With that, let's see what the brain's tackling fuel actually is, starting with some key background information. As mentioned before, the adult mammal brain maintains a certain capacity to repair damage by regenerating newly born neurons. This is called adult neurogenesis. However, we still don't know what actually regulates this phenomena and how the body redirects these baby neurons called neuroblasts, or immature newly born neurons, to the damaged location. So researchers from the University of Cincinnati decided to go on a side quest to see what they could find. Using hints from previous research, they focused in on a small organ within the brain ventricles called the choroid plexus, which has the oh so important job of producing the body's cerebrospinal fluid, or the critical fluid that circulates throughout the brain, carrying signaling molecules and other factors which are critical for maintaining its function. Oh, and this little choroid plexus also sits right next to the brain's main neurogenic niche, or main region of the brain where neuroblasts are produced. Rather interesting, right? So to investigate this ever so suspicious relationship, and to attempt to answer the question of how the adult brain generates new neurons to repair damaged tissue, the researchers used a mouse model of ischemic stroke and depleted cerebrospinal fluid by observing how the mice's brains responded to stroke damage with and without the choroid plexus, analyzing the effects of neuroblast production, migration, and differentiation in the neurogenic niche and lesion site. Yeah, see why research like this probably can't be done in humans? Yeah, although it still seems safer than a lobotomy. Just saying. So, what'd they find? Well, first, that the choroid plexus seems to be a key player in maintaining the adult brain's ventricles and its neuroblast pools. Pretty cool. But what about when the choroid plexus was removed? This is where things got really interesting. The researchers observed that not only did cerebrospinal fluid become depleted when they removed the choroid plexus, but it also led to a reduction in newly born immature neurons, aka neuroblasts, and decreased their migration to lesion sites. Oh, damn. They concluded that their study demonstrated that the choroid plexus cerebrospinal fluid axis plays a crucial role in regulating neurogenesis in the adult brain, both under normal conditions and after ischemic stroke. In mice, of course. And when we take a step back and think through this a little bit, it actually really makes sense, as cerebrospinal fluid is responsible for the transport of waste products, hormones, neurotransmitters, immune cells, proteins, and other molecules, essentially acting as a key carrier for so many critical substances in and out of the brain. So when you drastically diminish it, it likely affects a lot of things, including adult neurogenesis. Multiply this by the fact that cerebrospinal fluid production also seems to diminish as a function of age, and that there are no specific therapies that have been documented to improve cerebrospinal fluid and neuroblast production, makes any potential enhancement of this pathway, or better said, delay of decline, once again, most likely a game of efficiency, cellular and metabolic efficiency. So let's discuss some brain boosting interventions and see if they may hold some relevance here. And a good place to start is probably by recalling a previous research review we did on neurogenesis, one which identified mitochondria function as a core component of neuronal stem cell activity. So a budding longevity enthusiast may hypothesize that these little powerhouse organelles may have some relevance here as well. I mean, they are at the core of complex cellular life as we know it, so probably a good bet. But that would go for literally any biological process too. So we'll call a spade a spade. As we know, there are plenty of ways to modulate these little energy-producing cellular signaling organelles which inhabit each cell by the thousands in a beneficial way. Many of these ways entail eliciting good stress upon them, a process which drives them to become more efficient, more abundant, and more flexible in their metabolic capabilities. And what happens to be the most potent lifestyle intervention to do this, you ask? While also, ironically, being one of the best ways to trigger the genesis and longevity of adult-born neurons? Good old badonkadonking, aka exercise. And might I add, it is also the prime stimulator of a family of neurochemicals called neurotrophic factors, which improve the activity and plasticity of the brain, meaning act as growth factors for existing neurons, priming them to establish greater and stronger connections, and thus enhancing cognitive function, learning, and memory. Oh, and side note, the reason you're often in a good, relaxed mood for the hours following a bout of exercise is because it stimulates the release of natural mood-boosting chemicals called endorphins. I mean, talk about a deal. That being said, there are also many other potential lifestyle levers to pull here. Another critical one being high quality circadian aligned sleep, as cerebrospinal fluid plays a big detoxification role in the brain between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. during deep, slow-wave, non-REM sleep, primarily because it facilitates the activation of the glymphatic system. Here, cerebrospinal fluid is flooded into the areas of the brain to wash away neurotoxic waste, creating an environment for optimal neuronal and mitochondrial function the next day. This is one of the reasons why chronically disaligned, deprived sleep is associated with so many negative neurological conditions. If you're interested to learn more here, we have a full breakdown of the glymphatic system in this video here. Another interesting lifestyle habit worth exploration here is intermittent fasting. A strategic 24+ hour fast followed by a nourishing refeed of real whole foods has shown the ability to wake up dormant stem cells in the gut. And daily time-restricted feeding, or dividing your 24-hour day into strategic and consistent feeding and fasting windows, has been shown to boost cellular function and reduce longevity liability numero uno, chronic inflammation. Oh, and we cannot forget about the mind-boosting benefits of both a real whole food way of eating and more nature or outdoor time, as they have consistently displayed profound impacts on brain function and efficiency, and thus mood, feel, cognitive function, and emotional well-being. With all that being said, at the end of the day, the facts of the matter are, we currently have 99% of the neurons we're ever gonna have up in our cranial cabinets already, even as adult neurogenesis is proving more and more possible. Unless we are missing something huge here, which is always a possibility, new neurons aren't being deployed at a pace that should justify anyone getting even remotely complacent with the ones that they already have. Thus, in my view, the winning strategy is to protect and nurture the ones that you currently have while performing activities which increase your odds, likelihood, and probability of ramping up the pathways which facilitate the creation of new ones. And many of the strategies for both of those things are the same. That, in my eyes, is the secret sauce. A sauce which will always be updated as new information becomes available, and one that has hopefully become a little bit easier now that you've got your neuronal tackling fuel. And if you ever forget, just save this video to remind you.
Water sucks. Gatorade is better. What?
Oh, no, production team, I meant this video, the one we're recording. You know what? That can work too.